see the world through other people's eyes. Now, empathy is a quality of character that can change the world.
Hi, it's Edwin Rutsch from the Center for Building a Culture of Empathy, and I'm here with Mark Collins, who's Executive Director and founder of Dovetail Learning. So thank you, Mark, for joining me.
Great to be here, Edwin.
So the way I kind of got connected with you is Ashoka is having a contest called Activating Empathy, and they have had 600 applicants for their contest and grants, and you're one of the 15 finalists. So I really wanted to kind of connect with you and hear about your program and how your program relates to empathy.
Yeah, we submitted that proposal about, I guess, 2 months ago, and just heard recently. And wow, because there's a tagline to the contest too. It's called "Transforming Schools into Teaching What Matters," and our program is based and focused on empathy, and it's also focused on the whole child or the whole person. And so empathy is a big part of that. Mm-hmm. What it is a K through 6 curriculum that gets taught in the classroom with the teacher, and it creates what we call a common language, and it's a kind of a resilience-based program. That the basic assumption is that all children, regardless of their circumstances, have this capacity, this innate capacity for goodness or wholeness. And empathy, of course, is a big part of that. Whether you call it empathy or compassion and so there's 12, so the whole program is based on 12 tools. And the fourth tool in the toolbox is empathy.
Okay.
And it's a tool so that each child actually cuts out a toolbox. I don't have those with me right now. I guess we could cut and.
I have the your Facebook page up here, so you kind of show. You have kind of like the sun radiating out and all these different rays. Are those the tools or?
Yeah, each one of those is a tool. That's actually a background. That's out on a playground in a school. And that is a whole wall that the students painted. And what happens is that I'm wondering if I should probably grab one of those tools.
Sure, why not?
Should I just, okay, just hold on to that. Hold on for a minute. Let me just grab it. Because it's...
Plus, you've got the poster behind you, too, of
yeah,
so tools.
I'm going to show you the actual toolboxes themselves, because they're so, we can start over again a little bit, but, yeah, sorry, okay, back again.
Sure, it adds a bit of
so
interest.
What it is these are the actual toolboxes. They're little manila folders that the kids cut out, and then we have for the upper grades they do journaling, and then in each one has a tool. Like for instance, this is the level, and on the back of it says empathy tool, and caring for others, caring for ourselves. So what we did as a tagline, we talk a lot about, because children can relate to caring for themselves as part of the empathy tool of caring for others. So it brings that self-other access into the dialogue for children. And they get this right away. The kindergartner understands this. And they can then, what they do is once they cut out the tool, they can just put it right in their toolbox like this. Mm-hmm. And then they take ownership of it. It becomes something that they own. And we're finding it has a tremendous impact on school culture, school climate, and intrapersonal relationships. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a very visceral kind of a reminder or something you can kind of really put your hands on and create dialogue around.
Correct. It's kinesthetic. And then it's very kinesthetic. And then when you put the toolboxes together, we all see that there are differences.
Oh.
So we could put them all in a whole classroom on a wall or whatever, and then you start to talk about diversity and how, no one toolbox is alike, and that kind of adds a lot to the dialogue, and to be able to really accept other people, like the other tools all support the empathy. Actually, we have a tool called the personal space tool, and listening tool, and quiet safe place. Because once you establish a quiet safe place within children, then they have, and give them a personal space that they're in. And so we start with the self actually first, and then we move out to other. Because once you have a self, you can do other. Hard to do other when you don't have a sense of self that feels safe, or knows how to listen, and those kinds of things.
Yeah, I saw your mission is our mission is to build children's capacity for resilience in life and learning through personal awareness, self-mastery, and empathy for others. So you're really talking about that personal awareness component, where you have to be able to empathize with others. You first have to be able to kind of connect to what's going on inside yourself.
Yeah, as simple as that might sound, it's pretty profound in the sense that, it took me a while. It took me about 12 years to really take all the language, all the kind of woo-woo, as you said, the woo-woo language out, but to make it really grounded in concepts, metaphor that a kindergartner, or a high school kid could understand, and have it be useful. The beautiful thing about the metaphor of tools is it has a usefulness about it. And children cross-culturally understand what a tool is. And sometimes we just need to change the name of the tools a little bit. If we've been kind of working and talking with people in India and in Croatia, and actually we had some interest from Saudi Arabia too. And so we find that the tools are different, but they have some, in the cross-culture, there's always some reference to a tool.
So it's very metaphorical in that sense, putting kind of taking different values and creating a metaphor of them. And I really love that, because in these dialogues that I do, I like to ask people about metaphor. For example, empathy is, even the definition of empathy is, standing in someone else's shoes and looking through someone else's eyes. So that's like a metaphor. And for me, the metaphor of empathy is it's cornucopia, in the sense that we experience kind of this richness of connecting to each other. We get to share this richness of feelings and values and experiences. So talking about metaphors, do you have a metaphor of empathy? What empathy is like as a metaphor for you?
Yeah, one of the things we do, there's a couple things we do with empathy. Actually, walking in someone else's shoes, that's exactly the lesson that we have. We have the teachers grab a pair of shoes, and different kinds of shoes. We have worker shoes, we have waitress shoes, we have different kinds of shoes, and a lot of they could either draw that, or they can actually bring different shoes in, and then they walk around the classroom in these different shoes, and then talk about what it's like to be a worker, and with the work boots, or what's it like to be in nurse's shoes, what's it like to be in a dancer's shoes, or that kind of thing. So they can then experience, because what we really feel very close to is that the toolbox is not an idea, it's an experience that people have, like what you were saying. So we really always are working towards and that's what grounds it. Children really love it, because they have an experience of empathy that way, by giving them. And then in the actual tool itself, the picture we have is the picture of a level. And so we've picked that out. So all the tools have iconic relationship, and then they also have hand gestures. So the level is, where do you have empathy for yourself or empathy for your others? Sometimes you need empathy for yourself first in order to have empathy for someone else. So the hand gesture is this: empathy for self or others. So the teacher can just be in the classroom and go, without totally non-verbally, just go, where are we with this right now? And then that starts to build the culture of empathy And so that's as far as we've got in terms of the level and the metaphor of the level. You know, do I feel for myself, or am I feeling for my, and can I keep a balance there between
Yeah.
the two?
Well, that's pretty cool because within empathy, there's this notion of our common humanity, which is that we hold others' humanity and their values and feeling as well as our own. It's not about, sacrificing ourselves for others. It's about our values and needs and desires kind of being present. And so that's a beautiful little kind of a metaphor for, well, you got to hold both, and, it shifts, but it is important to kind of keep that level, holding your own needs as well.
Yeah. Yeah, it just seems that many of these tools, like I said, when we work on the self-access AXIS first, that it's very natural then to move out. You know, without that, a lot of programs are kind of more top down. They want to work at the social level without acknowledging the kind of inner life of a child. And I think what the Toolbox project does is really addresses that really upfront very quickly. And that then gives children an access to be able to move out into really then feeling for somebody else. And we're finding it there's a tremendous kind of a prevention, intervention, around bullying issues and those things. If we catch this early, like in kindergarten, and we move through the 6th grade, it becomes kind of a non-issue very quickly. We're finding that our first studies, like within 16 weeks, we're finding kind of significant changes in the culture of the school within 16 weeks of this program. So
yeah, so to create a culture of empathy, which is kind of what I'm kind of organizing myself around, it's like, how do we create a culture within ourselves, in our families, and to the far, the whole world culture. And it seems that a large part of that is creating a dialogue with people,
right.
creating dialogue between each other. And sometimes it's like hard to initiate that dialogue. Like, what's the starting point? And so what you've got, it sounds like, is you've got these, kind of tools, and it's something to help initiate and give a focus to creating that dialogue about what's going on for me, what's going on for you, and you're kind of learning the lessons as you go along.
Exactly. And the children, like, for instance, I could tell a little story, like one of a kindergartner came home. Actually, I was in a kindergarten classroom recently, and a dad came in who was a worker. I think he was actually a logging person up in Northern California. And this dad comes in and goes, "What is this empathy tool?" He says to this kindergarten teacher, and the teacher says, "Well, what do you mean?" He says, "Well, I was driving home last night, and this child was a kindergartner and only had Toolbox for like about 4 months, actually. And she's driving home late at night. It was a single dad, and with her dad, and she was in the back seat, and the dad says, "Well, when we get home, we got to go right to bed," and da-da-da. And she said, "Well, Dad, I'm kind of hungry. I didn't get to really finish my dinner." And he goes, "Well, you got to get to bed. We got to go to school." And then there was this silence. And then the kindergartner says to the dad, "Well, but Dad, you're not using your empathy tool." And the dad says, "What are you talking about?" Well, she says, "Well, you're not thinking about how I'm feeling." And so that was very moving for the dad. And I can't tell you how many times we hear this story about it's a bottom-up program, and then the children can bring it home because they really understand what a tool is, and that someone's not having empathy for them, and then they can ask their parent for that, which is a pretty profound change in terms of what you were talking about, in terms of a common language or a way of dialoguing within the family. And so this then goes home, and then it becomes the family toolbox.
Oh, wow. Yeah. So you're really initiating a wider dialogue. Then it becomes like a conversation piece that they're taking home and having their parents are saying, "Well, what do you got there?" I imagine they say, "Well, this is what this is all about."
Yeah, these are tools that I have in my toolbox. See, they take ownership right away because it's theirs. They put their name on it, and they say, it's called my toolbox, really, is what it says, So they take ownership of it, and they recognize that immediately. That's what is so probably driving this program, is that children recognize that that's something they have within themselves. So it forms a kind of an agency, if you will, and an authorship around empathy very quickly. And then they know then they can use it. with their friends, and listening tool, and these other tools all support this interconnection, but then this interpersonal connection as well. And then it goes home, and then it goes up into the grandparents. And now what we're finding is that a lot of the community-based organizations in the county that we're in are all wanting to train their staff and personnel in Toolbox language. Even the hospitals, some of them are asking that their doctors and nurses be trained in Toolbox language. I mean, so it's no longer just a kindergarten class, but it's also these community-based organizations are interested in various places.
Oh.
Yeah, it's kind of exciting.
Yeah, is this so? It's kind of like we were talking about metaphor. It's that metaphor somehow is. I really love metaphor because it kind of integrates, kind of a cognitive, emotional integration, and it makes it kind of easy to kind of visualize. It's almost like a story in itself, and it's easy to convey, and so it seems like you're really working around metaphor.
But the metaphor goes beyond logic. Yeah, it goes right to the kinesthetic and the somatic, if you will, that experience. You bet. The metaphor. I mean, that it's funny. I'm giving talks, and sometimes to various populations, and sometimes when I give talks to the kind of the academia, you can see the eyes rolling around in the head, and they're going, "Oh, first of all," and after we show the films, there's two universal themes that people respond after we show, because we've been documenting all of our work with film for the last 6 years, so we have a lot of data and a lot of anecdotal stories that are quite compelling. And really, because we could talk all day long, but when you hear the kids and how they're using it, and some of the parent films now that we're going to be putting out, is just very, very powerful. But most people say after they see the film is, number one, regardless of where they come, where they are in a social hierarchy, they say, number one, I wish I had that when I was in kindergarten. And then sometimes the PhDs, and they're all rolling their head, they kind of look at me shyly and they say, wow, that's so simple. I wish I had thought of that. Simply putting the metaphor together with the experience in a toolbox is kind of that's so simple but profound. And of course, each tool has a depth that gets deeper and deeper as they go into it.
Yeah, we just touched on really deeply on the empathy part, but there's a lot of other. That drawing on the school? Oh, now I see it is a schoolyard. I can see it on the side there now on your Facebook page. So those are all the different qualities that the children can kind of explore.
Correct, and the tools start out with the individual, and they get more complex as they go along. So the last 3 or 4 tools get pretty complex, like apology and forgiveness. Well, you really need, that's like I think that's the 10th tool. 9th tool is apology and forgiveness tool. And so you really need empathy in order to be able to really sincerely apologize or to forgive somebody. You have to really feel what they're feeling, right? So the tools all add up. So when you get up into apology and forgiveness and patience, you need empathy to really develop patience. You really need empathy to have courage to use your tools when others aren't using theirs. And so the empathy really is a key core element to the work.
The whole process. So this is a reproducible kind of a curriculum, and you're bringing it into different schools. You just mentioned I'm in the Berkeley area or El Cerrito, and it's Contra Costa County, and you're actually going to be coming to this county, to the schools.
Yes.
Too.
Yeah, we started in Richmond last year with two schools in what's called Flatland Richmond in the Iron Triangle, and we're going to be in 6 next year, and then we're going to go to 10, and then we're going to go district-wide in all of Richmond.
Oh, wow.
And that we're kind of rebuilding our model there, in Richmond and that will be, we're going to have training. We're building a training of trainers model now. We're I think going to be in about 90 schools, about 12,000, 14,000 kids. And our motto in our company is to go slow to go fast, because we're really interested in fidelity, but we're really hoping that the model's pretty easy to replicate. I mean, these are just old folders and pieces of paper, and so it's pretty doesn't take a lot of time in the classroom. So it's all in public school. It's a bottom up. Didn't come out of a think tank. It really came from the children themselves. Me listening to them for over a period of years and finding out what was necessary and what was useful to them.
Well, that's great. You mentioned the Iron Triangle in Richmond, so I'm near near the city of Richmond, and Iron Triangle is one of the toughest areas in Richmond. So that if you're in the schools there, that's really, you're really addressing some difficult areas.
Yeah, you'll see those films will be on our website pretty soon. There's some there already, but we're just kind of, we're at a tipping point. It's moving pretty fast right now, and so we're trying to build some capacity in order to get this out and get it available to people. We just finished a 3-month filming in Richmond, and so we're going to have that up for people to look at, because it turns out that it seems to affect the marginalized populations even most quickly. It can go into more high functioning populations also and do a great support, but it seems to really create an immediate safety net in the more marginalized populations and more underserved populations.
Okay, there we go. Well, okay, then it was a real delight hearing about your program, and it's great that you're here in the Bay Area, which is where I am too. And I'm really wishing you good luck on that grant. I'm sure that would help your program, and great to see another partner out there in the cause for building a culture of empathy and compassion.
Yeah, thanks, Edwin. It's great to begin to come out into the world more. We've been in the trenches for a while, and now to come into change makers and folks like you, and meeting kindred others that are doing this work. It's it's something to get up for in the morning, and when you see these kids over and over just take immediate access to this, it's really it's pretty hopeful and exciting to be part of that greater kind of movement, if you will, to really teach what matters, and to give children those tools that we know they'll be lifetime tools. And I think there's a big swing movement toward that kind of teaching what matters, and then the rest of it will come naturally, much more naturally.
Yeah, and we need to support each other too, have that mutual support in this to teach what matters, really.
Yeah, absolutely, and we look forward to kind of joining and kind of getting to know some of the other finalists too. We really are looking forward to that. So
yeah, I'm interviewing some of them, so maybe we'll have a panel discussion at some point. Skype panel discussion, share notes, and
I would love that. Even a conference, to go to a conference with others that were in this work would be so cool.
Well,
to bring us together.
Yeah, we have an online conference. It's the conference on how to build a culture of empathy. So you're actually in the conference. This is kind of the first stepping stone. So I've interviewed about 80 people and done 10 or 12 panels. So we can keep that as maybe a next step in mind to kind of network some more.
Good. Well, keep us posted. You have my email and I have yours, and please keep me abreast of all that. We're interested. Yeah.
Great. Okay. Well, thanks, Mark. It's a real pleasure chatting with you.
And likewise, and maybe we'll see each other on the street since we're in the neighborhood. So
El Cerrito.
Yeah. We could invite you over or something.
Great. For a coffee or get together.
Yeah. There you go. That. Yeah, actually our videographer is going to be, we just got a grant to embed our videographer in Richmond for a year while we're doing this.
Wow.
We're going to be documenting it all on film. So
yeah, I'll send you my address. We'll get together here.
Great. Let's do it.
Okay, Mark.
All right.
Real pleasure.
Have a nice weekend.
You too. Bye.
Bye-bye.
See the world through other people's eyes. Empathy is a quality of character that can change the world.